about an employee working a 6-hour shift? Well, as I'd mentioned before, part-time employees still get the protections of the statute, so they are accruing paid time off. So the statute provides that an employer may limit the amount of sick leave to 24 hours or 3 days, and because an employee works 6 hours per day, the employee has only used 18 of 24 hours for enforcement purposes. The DLSC interprets the reference to 3 days to state an equivalent of 24 hours based on an 8-hour workday, and is not a limitation that can be used to prohibit a part-time employee from using at least 24 hours of accrued leave in a year. Therefore, the minimum amount that the employee has to be allowed to take cannot fall below 24 hours. In this situation, the employee would still have 6 hours left to take and be paid for that during the year. Are you allowed to accrue it and carry it over to the next year? An employer can limit or cap the amount of sick leave an employee may accrue to 6 days or 48 hours. So if you don't use it, it's not like it rolls over to the next year and then they're going to be able to build up 12 days. But they still have the 6 days going into the next year, and you need to be mindful of that. Does it reset? Well, what if I already have paid time off? A lot of employers love paid time off. It just kind of makes things easy. At least that's what you think from a bookkeeping standpoint. All I care about is how many days you're not here. I don't care why you're not here and why you're not here, and I'm going to pay you for those days that you're not here, up to the cap. Well, the new law requires that employers separately track sick leave accrual and use. So long as the employer provides at least 24 hours per year of paid time off for the full-time employees, for the part-time employees, and more than that for the full-time employees, up to 8 days, as I said, the employer does not need to provide more PTO. So that doesn't mean that you have to have your PTO and then give the additional time that they've accrued. But the employers must show on the employee pay stub or a document issued the same day as the paycheck how many days of sick leave the employee has available. The employers must also keep records showing how many hours the employee earned and used for the years, for 3 years. You have to retain those records for 3 years. And this information may be stored on documents available to employees electronically. So you don't have to keep it in paper form. You can keep it in your computer system if that's easier for you. Can the time be cashed out, like paid time off can be cashed out? No, it can't. So that's one thing that you maybe are going to want to talk about with your CPA or your financial planner is, well, what are we better off doing? Are we better off having PTO that can be cashed out? Or are we going to get away from that and just go off what the law is, which is we'll allow them to have the 8 days a year if they're working full time, and if they leave, I don't have to worry about cashing them out. That's a business decision for you to make. I don't know what kind of employees you have working for you. Some might not care about having PTO. Some might care quite a bit and leave. I don't know, but that's certainly something a business owner might want to think about depending on what kind of employees you have. The employer must give notice. So beginning January 1st, 2015, employers are required to post in a conspicuous place at the workplace a poster that lays out all of the information about this new law. And for new hires, you actually have to have them sign a form where they acknowledge that they've been made aware of their rights under this law. And you can get that form at the Department of Industrial Relations website. So, or I'm sure your workers' comp carrier has it. I bet you a lot of your bookkeeping services that you guys use have it. There's different ways to get it, but it is available on the government website. The point is, just don't fall short of giving that notice and putting up the poster. It's a simple way to avoid having a mistake come back and bite you in the butt that could be costly. This is a simple one to comply with. What can sick leave be used for? Can you just go get a tan in Hawaii? No. Employee can take paid sick leave for self or a family member for preventative care or care of an existing health condition, or for specified purposes if the employee is a victim of domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking. Now, I think an interesting issue is going to become, well, you know, what is an existing health condition? Is stress going to be something that lets you just take off days? And then in which case somebody might say, hey, I'm stressed, I'm ready for my vacation courtesy of my employer, I'm going to go to Hawaii and chill out, and it's going to be on the boss. I don't know. I mean, those claims are going to get litigated. I mean, what really is an existing health condition? Who knows? The notice requirement. Employers must permit the employee to use the paid sick leave upon an oral or written request, and the law forbids requiring an employee to find a replacement as a condition of using the leave. If the need is foreseeable, the employee must give reasonable advance notice, but where the need is unforeseeable, the employee need only give notice as soon as practicable. So I guess if all of a sudden your employee's child, maybe the night before falls and breaks his or her arm, or something goes on in the family, they're going to pick up the phone and leave you a message, and that's going to be reasonable notice under the circumstances, in my opinion, and you're now paying for the time that they're gone caring for their family member or themselves, depending on the situation. How much is paid when the employee uses this sick leave? Well, the employee must be paid at the regular hourly rate. Here's the part that I think is interesting, is if the employee pay fluctuates, for example, what if the employee gets a commission or a piece rate? And the employer will then be required to divide the employee's total compensation for the previous 90 days by the number of hours worked and pay the employee at that rate. Now think about that for a second. What if those of you that have sales employees in here earning commissions happen to have an employee who made a big sale in the previous 90 days? Is that going to get factored into what you're supposed to pay while they're doing the sick leave? Well, the way the law is written, yeah, I suspect that's going to be the subject of quite a bit of clarification and litigation in the years to follow.